Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Curot Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 1987 romantic comedy titled Moonstruck. Now, Moonstruck runs for 1 hour and 42 minutes long. It is directed by Norman Jewison. It is produced by Norman Jewison and Patrick Palmer. The script was written by John Patrick Shanley. The score was done by Dick Hyman. The cinematography was done by David Watkin, and the editing was done by Lou Lombardo. And the stars of the movie are Cher, who went on to win a Best Leading Actor award. Let's see who else was in there. There was Olympia Dukakis, who went on to win an Academy Award for Best Supporting Actress. We also had Nicolas Cage. We had Vincent Gardenia, Danny Aiello, Julie Bovasso, Louis Guss, John Mahoney, who of course is famous for playing Dr. Fraser Crane's father, Martin Crane, on the TV series Frasier. Feodor, Chaliapin Jr., and Anita Gillette. Now, the plot of the story goes a little something like this. Cher plays the role of Loretta Castorini. She is an Italian-American bookkeeper from Brooklyn Heights in New York City. She is engaged to her longtime boyfriend, Johnny Camerari, played by Danny Aiello. She is, of course, she had a previous marriage, but her husband died. So now she's dating this other guy named Johnny Camerari, and she seems like she's not all that attracted to him. He's got kind of a bit of a Bengali type of relationship with her, and she just does not seem to really dig him too well. But then news comes out that his mother, who is living in Italy, is dying, so he takes leave to tend to his ailing mother. So with Johnny absent, Loretta starts dating his hot-tempered brother Ronnie, who runs the Camerari Bakery. And there's a little interesting trivia that I think maybe you guys should know. There really is a place called Camerari Bakery located in Brooklyn, New York. It's a bakery that has been been around since 1921, and I think still to this day as we speak, it's still running. Yeah. You see businesses come and go, but this bakery is still running to this day as we speak. So, yeah. Uh, Ronnie has definitely some logical explanations as to why he is estranged by his brother Johnny, because Ronnie's girlfriend passed away, and his and it was due to Johnny's irresponsibility, and Ronnie has never fully forgiven him for it. Aside from the fact that he's hot-tempered and angry, also stems from the fact that because he works in a bakery, it requires two hands. He actually has an artificial hand because of an incident that happened while he was baking bread. His hand got caught and he had to have it severed. So now he is working in a bakery. He's overworked, he's underpaid. His wife's dead. He has an artificial hand. And he's just practically just one pissed off individual. Not to say I take blame for it, not to say I can't blame him for that, but hey, shit happens, but he's got a good logical explanation as to why he's angry. He's not just angry because he's just mad at the world or just pissed off with his life. He's just really angry, and we see that rage within him. So, aside from that, a taboo relationship runs rampant in Loretta's Italian American household, with the exception of her grandfather and the four dogs, if you count them as family. Yes, she's not, I mean, she's not the only person who's faced in the dilemma, as, the main topic in this movie is basically about infidelity. She is committing an act of infidelity, but then again, she's not necessarily, married to Johnny yet. She has been in a steady relationship with him, and he did propose marriage to her, and then he had to take leave to go to Italy to tend to his dying mother. And she, of course, is in a relationship with. So she starts off by progressively trying to know Johnny's brother Ronnie. He's hot tempered, he's angry, he he's pissed off at his brother and hasn't been in a great relationship with him ever since the accidents. But aside from that, we also look at the elderly family members who are also seem to be struggling with the topic of infidelity. There is suspicions that Loretta's mother Rose, played by Olympia Dukakis, believes that her husband Cosmo, played by Vincent Gardenia, is also seems to be a little bit flirty with a lady named Mona, played by Anita Gillette. Even though he's never really actually committed any kind of promiscuous acts, she still kind of is very suspicious. And she decides to spend some time with some professor. His name is Perry something. I don't know. I think that's his name, Professor Perry. Anyways, he's played by John Mahoney, who, of course, you may know as Martin Crane from the TV series Frasier. So she starts dating him, but of course, just when he thought that he was going to, start a relationship with her, she turns him down because she still has love for Cosmo, and she still seems optimistic that her and Cosmo could work things out. Yes, I know it was kind of a little bit shameful that he was stood up, but at the same time, we can understand what she's going through, and it's just so good that everything in the end turns out very well. You know, I really like this movie because there's a lot of very sympathetic characters in there. I don't think there's really anybody in particular that's really all that unlikable. And even though Johnny could probably be at fault for a lot of the casualties that Ronnie has faced, I still find a deep sense of sympathy towards Johnny. I still feel a lot of sympathy towards many of the characters. And even though Grandpa Castorini was mostly played for the comic relief, he's still very effective in his roles, especially his love for his dogs. I especially love the part where Rose is in her kitchen and feeding, and they're all having their dinner, and Grandpa Castorini starts feeding the dogs the meal, and she gives him a severe reprimand. You know, that it's not a cheesy romantic formulaic uh done to death kind of romantic comedy. I actually think there's a lot of great engaging stuff, very interesting characters, very well developed, And you also get the kind of sense and the essence of what it's like to be an Italian American family, when yet the main contributors who made this movie are not necessarily Italian Americans. I mean, look at the director of the movie. We have Norman Jewison, who's a Jewish Canadian. The scriptwriter is John Patrick Shanley, Irish American. The Academy Award winning performer, Cher, she's Armenian, even though she was married to Sonny Bono, who is Italian American, so I guess she probably kind of got the quips and the quirks of probably what it's like to be in an Italian American household. So she probably might get a bit of that. We have Olympia Dukakis, who's Greek American. So the main contributors in this story seem to get the gist of a typical Italian American family, and I think it is actually very refreshing that we're seeing a family like this that does not have any kind of mafia connections. Nobody's blowing each other's heads off. Nobody's taking justice on a personal level. If there's a problem and they need it solved, they do it through discussion, sitting all together in a family like a big group meeting, and serving spaghetti and meatballs. That's how they deal with their problems. I know that last part about the spaghetti and meatballs is a little bit cliche on my part, but hey, I'm just trying to make jokes here. But all seriousness aside, if you have a problem and you need to talk it out, it's always best to just talk things over. You don't have to get violent. You don't have to get angry. You don't have to get aggressive. You don't have to punch a table. You don't have to raise your voice. No, you just have to take things and try to work it out. And that's exactly what you see in this movie. And that's what makes it so effective. I mean, it's not just a schmaltzy, kissy romantic comedy. There's a lot of humorous moments, and the dialogue and the script and the direction is just pitch perfect. And no wonder why it received a lot of critical praise. This was a winner of 3 Academy Awards, and Cher was among one of them. In the finicky world of the Academy Awards, where judges who have their biases in the past when it came to selecting those that feel they deserve Oscar recognition, the committee seemed to have 20 smiles on their faces for a film like this one that could have easily been snubbed by today's standards. I mean, today's romantic comedies is just random, formulaic, dull bullshit. This is nothing but bullshit. I guess they like the idea that Moonstruck was saturated with Italian characters that are not linked to any underworld associations. It also seems that the average age group of the characters featured in here seem to be over the age of 60. Or at least around that age. It's actually quite refreshing that, in the movie industry where it seems to favor among the younger stars, this movie actually has quite a lot of older stars in this. 50s, 60s, 70s, something. Maybe Feodor Chaliapin is probably near 80. And even he has a lot of importance in this movie. Yeah, I mean, the elder performers in supporting roles seems like a rarity when the movie industry caters more towards younger performers getting more exposure. This is one contributing factor why this romantic comedy actually stands out a bit more. Um, Not to go to SJW mode, social justice warrior mode. I'm not going into that kind of vernacular, but I do have to say that the women characters, Loretta and her mother, Rose, who won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actress, Olympia Dukakis, They are the true leaders in their respected households and in their relationships. It also helps that the performers are not strangers to one another. So, nonverbal poses are all the more effective and the dialogue within them runs smoothly. Yes, that's right. The nonverbal. There's even just some memorable quirks that just work effectively. I mean, remember there was the scene where Ronnie was like really angry, pissed off, he was aggressive, and uh, and there was the scene where Cher just slapped him on the face, not once but twice, and then she kept yelling, "Snap out of it!" Cher and Nicolas Cage tried to hold back their laughter, and they just couldn't do it. Well, as they continued the scene, they were trying to hold back their laughter, but that snap out of it scene was actually improvised. But instead of just editing it out, director Norman Jewison said, "Let's keep it in there." It worked. I mean, I think that if that snap out of it scene would not have gone into effect, it would have been ashamed. I would have not would have wanted that on the cutting room floor. That scene worked. Now, even though this movie may have given Cher tons of accolades in her performance, it didn't transform her into a megastar. I know she did quite well in the movie Silkwood, but to me, I still think her standout performance was 1985's Mask. I thought she was really effective as Rusty Dennis, and it was just a shame that she was snubbed of an Oscar in that movie. I think she actually should have deserved an Oscar in that movie more than I can say for Moonstruck. Not to say she did bad in Moonstruck, she did really well, and she well deserved the Oscar, but I still felt that Mask, she was snubbed. I guess I could even say the same for Eric Stoltz, who should have won Best Supporting Actor, but he was snubbed too. You finicky people in the Academy industry. You just don't know when to see a good thing coming now, do you? I don't know. I'm just a critic in my living room, ranting and raving about reviews. Cher must have had a 10-foot smile when she read the script, and she would have been paid for she would have played this role for cheap. I mean, much to her surprise that she received a lot of recognition, even though, she was already established star, as a singer. And then she and Sonny Bono had their variety show. And then she just kind of blossomed as a movie star. Not to say that she completely abandoned music at the time, but, she just shows just how versatile she is as a performer. And like I said, she would have played this movie for cheap. Let alone the fact that she received a lot of money from this role and she won an Academy Award. And rightfully deserved. Because she hasn't really done a great role after Moonstruck. I mean, yeah, she did okay with The Witches of Eastwick, but it wasn't really that great of a movie. It wasn't bad, but it wasn't like at her best. And then she also did Mermaids, which was also she was really good in. But let alone she just was pretty much upstaged mostly by the young up and coming Winona Ryder. No, but she still was not the best performer in this movie. And even I guess you could say the same for Olympia Dukakis. The one that really caught my attention was the performance the real breakout star here had to go to Nicolas Cage in his role as the angry, disgruntled, pissed off at the world Ronnie Camerari. Along with the movie Raising Arizona, which came out in the same year, this really truly shows just how versatile and how effective of a performer Nicolas Cage is, even still to this day. I think Nicolas Cage should stick more to comedies and not stupid action films. So no more Ghost Rider for you, Nicolas Cage. Stick with something that is best for you. I think comedy works better to your advantage. Maybe even drama. Just not action. Action sets you back. Comedy brings you forward. And I think you definitely have that gift. If given the right script and given the right moments, you are an actual effective performer. You've proven that. Even dramas too, like when you were playing like in movies like Leaving Las Vegas. I mean, you won an Oscar for that. In adaptation, you won an Oscar for that. Or was nominated, I don't remember. But you are better in comedy. Don't go into the action movies. Stick to what you're good at. Stick to your guns, as the old saying goes. It's his comedic timing is really spot on, and his widened eyes are effective. His emotions seem to spread out better than a lot of people. It's a kind of a bit of a shame that he was robbed from what could have been a supporting actor nomination here too. We see his gift displayed in these type of films, and sure he still continues making lousy action flicks. It's comedy that really exists the actor that Cage is and what he could accomplish. I like you better when you're playing comedy or drama and and just stay out of action. And some of the best scenes in Moonstruck involve around Ronnie Camerari. When Loretta interrogates Ronnie about his estranged relationship with his brother, Ronnie relinquishes an unexpected emotional outburst. And who can forget the part where she tries to stop him and then she slaps him and yells, "Snap out of it!" It's really good. You know, maybe some people might say he was a little bit over the top, but I disagree. I understand how he feels. And I take a lot of deep sympathy for him. I feel really bad that the guy has to work in a work in a bakery kitchen, sweating like bullets, and carrying and wearing a fake hand. But we truly care about him, and we know that underneath that rugged personality, we see a sad man. But he just has kind of a name to live by, where sadness is not an option because he's a regular man's man, and we don't do well with our emotions. Later, we see Ronnie button up for the opera, a sign where romance is more welcomed than reality. Yes, this movie is about as Italian as it can get. From cooking linguine with meatballs to opera to bakeries that have been around for almost 100 years to anything. This and even the soundtrack is mostly filled with music that would be more, which has an Italian theme to it. I mean, throughout this movie, you could hear Dean Martin's "That's Amore" being played in the background. And hey, this is about as enjoyable as it could get. I mean, it's just these guys are fun characters, and you get to actually know them. Sometimes in the scenes where it take place in Rose's kitchen, you just feel like you're there with them. You're very involved with the characters. And I sat through this whole movie intrigued by each and every one of them. And they all deserve a special place in my heart. And I hope that after the credits roll, good things come their way. Even though at the end I kind of even felt sad for Aiello's character Johnny, who eventually ends up on the short end of the stick because Cher found her true soulmate in his brother Ronnie. And just when it looked like he surrendered and decided to just head home, then we have her grandfather, and he tells him, "Come, sit with us, have dinner. You may not be married to her, but you're still family. Be a part. We're all in this together." And that really was special, especially in the end. From beginning to end, everything about this movie was special. I wish I would have done this one on Valentine's Day, but because I had other commitments ahead, so this is kind of belated. I wanted to do this one on Valentine's Day because the movie Moonstruck is pretty much synonymous with Valentine's Day. I thought I would do Valentine's Day with something like with a more romantic theme to it, and Moonstruck is about as good as it gets. And I don't think there would be another romantic comedy that would ever top this one. The subject of infidelity comes across frequently here in Moonstruck. The uneven account about the infidelity depicted here is that Loretta could practically get away with it. It is her love for Ronnie than she is to Johnny. But Rose's husband and Loretta's father, Cosmo, is also questioned with non approval after quietly being with another woman behind her back, even though there was really never any signs of him engaging in any kind of intercourse. Maybe he was just, being friendly. And what's wrong with being a little friendly? Of course, it's normal that there was going to be some kind of suspicion and some kind of backlash, but it just happens naturally. It happens a lot. So overall, this was a really enjoyable movie. You know, I mean, I sat through a lot of romantic comedies where I would feel either engaged, intrigued, or I could look at it and say, "Oh, this is the same bland, boring bullshit." Or some movies are just plain naturally uninteresting. Or it sometimes feels that the romantic comedy genre has been running out of ideas, so they just stick to formulaic stuff. But Moonstruck has a lot of original content to it. And we see a family that is not a caricature. These are real people, and they're going through real situations. And if I was to give this a scale out of 10, I actually truly enjoyed this movie a lot. Uh, Maybe the movie could have been a little bit longer, which is why I'm not giving it a full 10 out of 10, but I'm still giving it a very highly respectable 9.5. So I guess this ends my writer review. Thank you all for listening in. If you wish to subscribe to my channel, please feel free to do so. If you wish to leave a comment, go right ahead. Just remember, be kind, be courteous, and don't be rude. Because I'm all about the love. And I will be back again with another movie review. So until next time, this is Eric Red Rutter saying, keep watching those movies, and I'll see you around. Goodbye.